The rain had not been forecast that night, yet it fell with an unnatural insistence, like the sky was trying to drown something beneath it. Michael Hale stood at the rusted gate of Briarwick House, rainwater sliding down his jacket, gathering at his collar, dripping onto the old padlock that had long since given up its duty. The house loomed before him, dark, skeletal, patient. He had not come out of curiosity. He had come because his grandmother's final months had been filled with frantic whispers about this place. She had muttered in the night, trembling violently, about faces in the walls, about rooms that shifted, about voices beneath the floorboards. She had been found wandering near these grounds 50 years ago, babbling about the house that remembers everything. No one took her seriously except him, and now he stood where she once stood, rain hammering against the skeletal frame of the house, the forest whispering like an audience waiting for a performance to begin. He pushed open the gate. The hinges screamed, a shrill metallic cry that echoed into the trees. The path leading to the porch was overgrown, each step sinking slightly into spongy soil. Weeds clung to his boots like desperate fingers. The porch was worse, boards soft and swollen from decades of weather and disuse. The house seemed to breathe, exhaling cold drafts through the cracks in its bones. Michael wiped his forehead, rain mixing with sweat. He tightened his grip on the flashlight, its beam slicing weakly through the dark. He whispered to himself, a habit when he was nervous. Just a house, old wood, old stories, old ghosts. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the house for a brief moment, and in that flash the windows looked like watching eyes, glass glistening with a malicious intelligence. The front door was slightly ajar. He had not touched it. He stood motionless. Something ancient coiled in his stomach, but he had come too far to turn back. Slowly, deliberately, he pushed the door open. A wave of cold, stale air rolled out, smelling of dust, rot, and something faintly metallic, something that reminded him of old blood. Inside, the house was silent in the way abandoned places often are, but this silence felt aware, not empty, but listening. The beam of his flashlight swept across the entryway, peeling wallpaper, a toppled coat rack, an overturned umbrella still lying where someone had dropped it decades ago. He stepped inside. The floorboards groaned, not under his weight, but as though something shifted beneath them. His grandmother's words echoed through his mind. The house hears everything, everything, and it never lets go. Michael inhaled deeply and began documenting his surroundings into a small recorder. His voice wavered, barely audible above the soft hum of the storm outside. Entry hall, significant water damage, signs of forced deterioration, possible structural. A soft tap, tap, tap sounded above him. He froze. It wasn't the rhythmic drip of rain. It wasn't wind. It was deliberate, slow, almost hesitant. Footsteps, except they were too light, too quick, like something small but fast, scurrying across the floor above. He shined the flashlight at the ceiling. Dust drifted down. The footsteps darted toward the far staircase. Michael swallowed hard. Animals, he whispered. Probably raccoons. But even he didn't believe that. The staircase rose in front of him, steep and narrow. Each step was warped. At the top, shadow pooled like ink, dense and impenetrable. Stormlight flickered through cracked windows, slicing through the darkness just enough to make the shadows look alive. He began his ascent. Halfway up, he stopped abruptly. A low creaking sound rolled through the house, Slow, heavy, dragging. Not footsteps, something older, something that moved like it remembered every inch of the floor. He held his breath. The dragging sound stopped. Then the whispering began. It was faint, barely more than a threaded sigh, slipping through the wallpaper like air through a cracked window. Michael leaned in. The whispering grew clearer, though he could not make out the words. It was not one voice. It was many, layered, murmuring over one another, a tapestry of soft, frantic breaths. Voices of men, women, and something else in between. Voices too old to belong to anyone still living. His throat tightened. This was no animal. This was no trick of wind. He reached the top of the stairs. A long hallway stretched before him, lined with closed doors. Some had deep scratches carved into their surfaces. Others were slightly ajar, swaying gently even without a breeze. The wallpaper here was peeling away in strips, revealing dark, stained wood beneath. Wood that looked almost bruised. Then he saw it. At the very end of the hallway, a door stood wide open, and within it, a faint light flickered. Candlelight. Impossible. No electricity, no fresh candles. No one had been here for decades. And yet the light danced, casting long, slender shadows across the floor. Michael felt gravity pull him forward, his feet moving without conscious command. The closer he came to the open door, the colder the hallway grew. His breath fogged in front of him. He stepped into the room. It was a child's bedroom. The air was unnaturally still, as though the room existed outside the storm entirely. Toys were scattered in a circle on the floor. Wooden figurine with painted faces, tiny carved horses, and a small porcelain doll with cracked glass eyes. A mobile hung above a dusty crib, its paper stars and moons tangled in cobwebs. On the nightstand beside the crib sat a candle, its flame steady, unwavering despite the draft. Michael's heart hammered. The room felt inhabited, not by a child, not anymore. He knelt beside the toys. Their painted faces stared up at him, each with the same unnervingly wide smile, except one. One toy horse was positioned slightly outside the circle. Its head had been broken off. Jagged wood jutted from its neck like splintered bone. He picked it up. A voice whispered right behind him, "Don't move!" He spun around. No one stood there. The hallway behind him was empty, silent. He dropped the broken horse. It clattered too loudly on the floor. His breath came fast now, ragged. He wiped his palms on his jeans and approached the nightstand. Next to the candle was a dusty children's book. He brushed the cover clean. Lullabies for Little Sleepers. He opened it. The pages were blank, every single one. He flipped through in frantic disbelief. Empty, empty, empty. Then he reached the last page. There was writing, fresh, written in dark crimson strokes that glistened wetly in the candlelight. "Welcome back, Evelyn." His grandmother's name. Michael's blood turned to ice. Something clicked behind him, soft, metallic. He turned around slowly. The porcelain doll had moved. It now sat upright, perfectly centered in the toy circle, facing him. Its cracked eyes gleamed, reflecting the candle's flame. A low groan rolled beneath the floorboards. The walls trembled slightly, as though something inside them shifted. Michael backed away. The candle flickered violently. Shadows twisted along the walls. Then the temperature dropped so sharply he felt the air bite his skin. Frost crept along the window pane. His breath poured from him in thick clouds. He turned to leave. But the doorway had changed. It was narrower, shorter, as though the house had lowered the ceiling, pushing the walls inward. The hallway itself looked darker, longer, warped like melted wax. The house was rearranging itself, closing around him, learning him. His grandmother's voice whispered in his head. It listens. It remembers. It keeps. Michael forced himself forward, squeezing through the altered doorway. The hallway had transformed completely. Doors that once lined the corridor were gone. In their place stood bare, breathing walls, wood swelling and contracting like lungs. The wallpaper had dissolved entirely, revealing faces beneath the surface. Dozens of them, pressed into the wood as though trapped behind it, mouths open in silent screams, eyes bulging and wet. Michael stumbled back. The faces followed his movement, their wooden eyes turning, their mouths stretching wider. A hand burst from the wall, pale, skeletal, grasping blindly for him. He screamed, a raw, desperate sound, and sprinted down the hall. More hands erupted, reaching, clawing, dragging fingernails across his clothes. The hall pulsed, the floor shifting beneath his feet, trying to trip him. He reached the stairs and leapt down the first few steps, hitting hard. The breath knocked from his lungs. The darkness below churned, thick and suffocating. He scrambled to his feet and froze. The entryway had changed. It was no longer an open space. The walls had narrowed, the ceiling sagging low. The front door was gone. In its place stood a single tall mirror, a mirror that did not reflect him. Instead, it showed a woman, his grandmother, young, terrified, standing in the exact place he stood now. She looked directly at him, through him, her eyes pleading. Behind her, shadows slithered across the floor. Long arms reached for her, dragging her backward out of view. She screamed, a silent scream, and vanished. The mirror went black. Michael staggered back, trembling uncontrollably. The house groaned, long and deep, almost satisfied. He turned and ran toward the side hall, looking for another exit. Any exit. The house twisted with every step, reshaping itself in an impossible architecture. Stairs leading nowhere, doorways that opened into pitch black, corridors that stretched and shrank like living muscle. Then he saw a faint light through a cracked door. He shoved it open. It was the dining room. A long table sat in the center, covered in dust except for one place setting, clean, polished, prepared. A plate, fork, knife, and a glass filled with dark, stagnant water. And in the chair sat a figure. At first, Michael thought it was a mannequin, but then it breathed, shallow and rattling. A gaunt, hollow-eyed old man slumped forward, his skin gray and sagging, lips trembling. Michael stepped toward him tentatively. "Sir, can you hear me?" The man's head jerked up. His eyes were sunken, pupils dilated to black pits. His voice cracked as he spoke, each word pulled from a throat long unused. "You shouldn't have come." Michael's pulse hammered in his ears. "Who are you?" The man shook his head violently, like he was trying to dislodge something crawling in his mind. "No name. No name anymore. The house took it." His gaze snapped upward, staring into nothing. "It remembers us, keeps us, feeds on us." Michael felt bile rise in his throat. "What happened to my grandmother?" The man's breathing hitched as if the question physically hurt him. "She ran, but you don't run from a memory. She left her mind behind, left it here. It still calls her." Lightning flashed outside. The shadows in the room lengthened, stretching across the floor toward them. The old man's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "It knows you're here. It's waking up." Michael turned to run. But the man grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Too late. It's already... His eyes widened. His body jerked violently, like an electric current surged through him. His jaw dropped in a silent scream as something inside the wall behind him shifted. A heavy thud, then another. Michael pulled back, horrified. The man's body went rigid. Then the wall behind him split open with a wet crack. Hands, dozens of them, shot out and grabbed him, yanking him backward. His body vanished into the wall, swallowed whole. The broken wood sealed, shut behind him as though it had never opened. Michael screamed, stumbling away, knocking chairs over as he ran. The entire house rumbled now. Lights flickered. Walls expanded and contracted like the chambers of a massive heart. The ceiling bulged downward, dripping dark liquid. The air tasted of metal, mold, and decay. Michael sprinted toward the nearest door. It slammed shut. He turned to another. Locked. The hallway behind him twisted violently, the floor rising like a wave, throwing him forward. He crashed into the wall, pain exploding across his ribs. He forced himself to his feet. The whispering voices returned, louder, clearer, chanting in a language he didn't recognize. The house was speaking, and it was calling his name. Michael! He spun. The voices bled from the walls, from the floor, from the air itself. Michel! 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 His flashlight sputtered, then died. Pitch black engulfed him. Something cold brushed his ankle. Another touched his shoulder. A hand gripped his hair. He thrashed wildly, breath heaving. Then a single voice, soft and mournful, whispered inches from his ear. Why did you come back? He froze. That voice belonged to his grandmother. A warm tear slipped down his cheek. Nana, he whispered. Silence. Then the house exhaled, and the darkness swallowed him whole.